Hi, Clutter Fairy fans. Welcome to the Clutter Fairy Weekly for February 23rd, 2021. I'm your co-host, Ed Gumnick, and I'm speaking with Gayle Goddard, professional organizer and owner of the Clutter Fairy in Houston, Texas.
Hi, everybody. The Clutter Fairy Weekly is our weekly webcast and podcast about all things organizing. And I appreciate that you guys go and make comments on our social media channels because we use those to create the topic ideas that you want us to talk about. So thank you so much for doing that.
If you're joining us live in the Zoom meeting for the first time, questions via the chat, and I'll try to make sure Gayle gets to them before we move on to another topic. You can also use the raise hand feature to let me know that you'd like to ask a question or make a comment yourself via audio or video. We are streaming the webcast live on Facebook as well, so you can share your questions and comments there, and I'll relay them to Gayle. And during the live webcast every week, you can talk to us directly by calling 669-900-6833. Use meeting ID 993-419-863 and password clutter to join the meeting. Okay, so we're back, and I'm going to let you take it from there, Gayle, and just quickly summarize why we weren't here last week for anyone who missed it.
In case you missed it, there was a huge winter storm that blew all the way to the northern edge of Mexico, and it looked like the movie Frozen everywhere that the storm went. It caused huge power outages in Texas and lots of frozen pipes in the lower part of the country, where we never had this kind of winter weather ever. So our houses and apparently our electric grid are not prepared for this level of onslaught. We're built to manage the outdoor heat, not the cold. So in the early morning hours of last Tuesday, we lost our power at the house, and that was it. I managed to barely get a text out to Ed because, of course, all the cell towers were losing electricity as well, and so text messaging became a big problem. But I got a text out, yeah, sorry, no electricity here. And so Ed just had to throw up a see you next week sign, and that's what we got. So sorry to miss you all. I got lots of emails and text messages from all of you guys asking after us, and it was really lovely to hear from everybody. Thank you so much for inquiring about our health and well-being. We were just cold and cranky. We were not we were not hurt or in serious trouble. We were just, really, really cold. So all is well. Everything's restored at my house, and we're here and ready to do it again.
However, there's a big however. So I'm in the middle of trying to get ready for what may be the second move in 13 months, because we have decided that our current place is not working very well for us. And in the middle of trying to prepare for today, about 3.5 hours ago, we had workers show up upstairs and start hammering on the floors above my head. And so Gayle and I have decided that today is going to be a viewer questions and comments episode. We have a lot of stuff a lot of topics we've collected that we want to talk about, and we're going to do, a bunch of small topics today as our main topic. But before we get to that, we're going to follow up on the weekly tittle from 2 weeks ago. As a reminder, or for anyone who is joining us for the first time, the weekly tittle is what we call the recurring segment in which we give our viewers and listeners a homework assignment, an exercise crafted to focus your attention on a specific space, aspect, or challenge of decluttering and organizing your home. Each week, we assign a new tittle, then check on your progress the following week. The tittle from our last episode, which was February 9th, was as follows. For an organizing project that you're finding big or overwhelming, choose the first layer of the onion to peel. In other words, identify one subtask or problem to address as your first priority. We gave examples of removing trash and recycling, or relocating items that are in the wrong rooms, or scanning the space for items that you're ready to donate. And so, Gayle, you've had some responses and feedback from clients on that this week.
Yes, and actually I did a virtual appointment with somebody in Alabama who was stuck on her project of dealing with paper, and she had a guest bedroom where she had been essentially sweeping into buckets and putting into the guest bedroom to stash paper that she didn't have time or want to go through in the moment. and she's worrying about her taxes and she needs to get filing. And so she wanted some help digging into the paper. And so we basically talked through this peel the onion process to tackle her paper on our virtual appointment. And so we were talking about digging through this big collection. And so I had her pick up one bucket and turn it upside down on her bed, which she was like, "You want me to do what?" Yeah, turn it upside down on the bed. And then we followed these steps that I outlined in the last meetup. Pull the trash out of the pile. Go looking for magazines and catalogs. Pull out all of the store receipts because they're long and skinny and they're easy to see. Then pull out large 9 by 12, 10 by 13 size envelopes, which are either usually super important or big advertisement things. And then you're left with a much smaller pile to start opening and going through. And so we went through that peel the onion pile process on her pile of paper. And we were very able, in an hour, she got probably 75% of it gone as trash or recycling, and she found a few important pieces of paper for her tax return. And then I asked her to please continue the work and send me a text message when she got done, and she was able to send me a text message. We were doing it at night, and so it wasn't that day, but the next day she sent me a text message and said, "I'm done with that pile. I got it completely done, and I'm getting ready to turn my next basket over on the bed." So she felt like that peeling process was really successful for her, and I got a big kick out of it. She also had a 6-week-old kitten who kept running through the paper and participated in our editing process, so that was a lot of fun for me as well. That was an example of using that onion peel process, and it worked really well for her, I think.
We also got a lot of great feedback on that particular episode in response to the metaphor of the jigsaw puzzle, thinking of your project in terms of a jigsaw puzzle. And in fact, when we couldn't have our meeting, I turned up at the usual time and chatted with the people who showed up because they had.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you did that.
There were people who hadn't seen notices. We placed a few places, and so they turned up. So I was here to just let people know we weren't having an official meeting. And several people said, "Oh, the jigsaw puzzle thing, that really works for me as a way to think of this." I think that, I don't know, our jigsaw,
an apt metaphor.
Are declutterers jigsaw puzzle people by
nature?
By nature, I don't know. But yeah, it was apparently a very apt metaphor for a lot of people. So that's nice. One other follow-up was talking about, since we had specifically mentioned CVS receipts, CVS uses a thermal type of paper, and those can't go in recycling. So I wanted to mention that if your receipts include the thermal paper, they apparently it doesn't go in recycling. It has to be trashed.
It probably has a lot of it probably has a lot of chemical in it to make it be that thermal paper.
That renders it not suitable for recycling. Bad. I know.
Well, at least they can go in the trash. You can put them in the trash with a clear conscience.
And then Joyce, who's with us now in Zoom, said she did the top layer in her second bedroom, drilled holes so I could put curtain rods up, so I could put up curtains. And the next layer, dust and vacuum that area so I can put my bookshelves back up and put my books back on my shelves. Yeah, so whether the metaphor that works for you is peeling the onion, or the metaphor that works for you is
building the jigsaw,
finding the corners and the edges. Metaphors can be very powerful ways to make sense of.
Right, to extrapolate the data. Yeah, that's really wonderful. I'm so glad.
Okay, awesome. So we will have another weekly tittle to announce later on, but let's get to some more viewer feedback and comments that we wanted to talk about at greater length. We got a lot of response to our episode about organizing for safety and ease of access.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to I'm going to read a couple and just get your input on these.
Okay.
Faith said, I moved my paper towels away from the stove and my step ladder to get out through the bedroom window if I have to, just while watching and listening. I will get a fire extinguisher for the granny pod where I live. I already have one for the main house. And
That
then,
is a great, thank goodness you got the paper towels away from the stove. Excellent. Very
well,
important.
and actually several people, I didn't save them all, but several people commented on dealing with the fire extinguisher component of the homework
Yeah.
assignment from that week.
Yeah.
And that's, delightful to hear that we may actually be contributing to the survival of, of our
Yes.
viewers and listeners.
We don't want you to go up in flames, and I'm really glad that you're buying fire extinguishers. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that.
And Amy said, when my mom passed away, and being the only child, I was cleaning out her condo, getting it ready for sale. I found literally hundreds of plastic grocery bags wedged between her stove and the wall.
Ooh.
I couldn't even believe it. I just kept pulling more out. If you have a parent who is living in their own home and elderly, should take the time and look for potential hazards in their living spaces. She obviously never thought it was a fire hazard. Thank you for reminding people about potential safety issues. I watch your videos all the time and have learned so much.
Yeah, this one, I read that one when it got posted, and it just made me cringe. The idea of somehow plastic bags, they are actually such a thin layer of physicality. Like there's just not much to them, right? And so it's really easy to keep jamming. And I just thought, oh my God, it's a miracle that her refrigerator didn't catch on fire, that the motor didn't burn out. Like, oh dear Lord, that one scared me a lot to think about. Somebody is in there adding more and more fuel to the fire by jamming up. And the other thing is that people take plastic bags and they shove them in a drawer, and they just keep shoving them and shoving them and shoving them. Eventually, as they're opening and closing the drawer, bags are falling off the back
Oh, yeah.
of the drawers and ending up behind, and they just keep getting jammed in back there. And it's like you're just creating a fuel bomb right there wherever all that stuff is jammed up. So ooh. That one made me really worried. I was glad that it was, her mother had passed away and it wasn't fire related, and it was just like she just found a potential hazard that made her nervous, because it made me super nervous too. So glad you cleaned it out. And it's something to think about. We sort of treat plastic bags like we're shoving them in a drawer, and the drawer is the room of requirement, and it'll just keep expanding to contain the volume. And you can cram some plastic bags in there really tightly, but it's a lot of volume. And we do it because we're like saving the plastic bags instead of throwing them away. But at some point, when you have 500 bags jammed into a drawer, it's just fuel for a potential fire. And so go take them and give them to a food bank that needs to give away. They need bags to give stuff away. Go find somebody, a resale shop that wants plastic bags to they don't have to spend money on plastic bags when people buy things at the resale store. Find some place for them to go, because they don't need to be jammed in your house waiting to catch on fire. That's what I'm saying about that.
Anita said, my mom used to store plastic bags in her oven. I was
No.
I was going to bake something
No.
while visiting her and found them before I lit the oven. Thank goodness.
Oh my God. No. Let's not catch on fire an entire oven full of plastic bags. No. Okay. Glad you looked. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Next topic.
And then we talked 2 or 3 episodes ago about motivations, and Ms. Leanite on YouTube said, using the idea of future loss of mobility or energy as a galvanizing force is a stronger motivation for us older folks. We've seen friends and relatives put off cleaning out closets and other squirrel holes until they suffer a back injury, broken hip, or other dysfunction. Then they have to rely on others to help them and feel shamed. Younger people often feel that they have plenty of time before they have to worry about such issues, but conditions like MS, multiple sclerosis, can strike at any age. We need to do what we can now at whatever pace we can manage. Our efforts just have to result in improvement, not perfection.
And
Which
perfection
I think
is an
is,
unrealistic goal, right?
yeah, I think that's a great slogan. So I want to repeat that piece. Our efforts just have to result in improvement, not perfection.
Exactly. Because you're going to continue to live in the house, your living space, whatever it is, however big or small it is always going to be an active living zone, and it's always going to be revolving. Things are going to be added and subtracted to it. You're going to be churning the contents. You're going to be doing laundry and hanging up clothes. Like, you're actually going to continue to live in it, and so nothing is static in a place where someone is actively living, right? It's not frozen in time. You are actually using and living in the stuff there. So you're not trying to get it to be perfect. You're not aiming for the Martha Stewart magazine cover shot of your house, because in that picture, you'll notice that everyone's standing perfectly still and there's nothing going on. So you're not going to live like that. You're just aiming for improvement and ease of access and less for people to deal with after you're gone and less in your way while you're living there. And you're just trying to improve your living conditions and improve what your family has to deal with when you're gone. And so anything that you can do towards that now, it's a big win for you in the moment, and it's a big win for them later. And that is what you're aiming for. And I think it's good to know that if you think about your future loss of mobility and let it spur you to motivation, that would be awesome. I have to say, running around, I've had a little bit of an issue with the knee, and it's making some of my normal activities be difficult. And I'm already feeling impaired, and it's a minor injury and it's a minor impediment, but it still makes some regular stuff be a hassle. And so if you're still cooking with gas and everything's all working okay, you need to use that energy now while you got it before things go off the rails, right?
Yeah.
Very important. Glad it was helpful.
And then from Nancy, we had this one. Yours is my favorite decluttering channel. I've shared it with many of my friends. Big thank you for that, Nancy.
Yeah, thanks so much, Nancy.
The biggest thing I need during your presentation is encouragement that it will get done. I have gone through my entire house twice already, and I'm working on the basement, which makes me crazy. I lose motivation easily down there. It's better than it was, however. Anytime you can give success stories or validations to people who've succeeded would be very helpful to me.
Good point. And this is part of the, you are still living, and so this project is an ongoing, never-ending project on some level, because your life is not static and you're not static. So there's a certain amount of, you're constantly reshuffling, putting things away, taking off old clothes, doing laundry, hanging up clean clothes, changing the sheets on the bed, using up the toilet paper, get new toilet paper. There's a constant churning of stuff in your house. And so there's some level of ongoing maintenance that's required as you do your house. And so how much decluttering you do to get it down to where you feel comfortable with it, then you're looking for the end result of, this is the maintenance chore that I feel comfortable with. This is a level of house maintenance that works for me. And that's your sort of end target, is that your decluttering, organizing, cleaning routine is one that you feel like you can manage and live comfortably with the results. And so it isn't that you're going to get to the end and the house is going to be perfect and then you're not going to have any problems anymore. What your end goal really is I'm going to get the house to a place where I find it easy to clean and maintain and keep safe. I like how it looks. I find it easy to move around. It's safe for me to live here. It's easy for me to keep it clean, so it's sanitary for me to live here, that kind of stuff. So that's the goal you're aiming for, is that your regular routine is okay. You mentioned the basement, and the basement's making you crazy. And I guess the thing about the basement is, so the basement is our version of a garage where all things go to die until they actually leave the house finally. And I think a basement is one of those out of the way storage places where you park things so that you don't have to make a decision about them. and you can sort of hide them down there, and they're not in your way and they're not in your daily life. They're just down there gathering dust and being ignored, right? So a basement is one where you have to decide how much do you actually want to keep and ignore, and what really needs to live down in the basement. And so maybe it's that your Christmas stuff has to be down in the basement, and your emergency supplies, like, I have a stash of hurricane supplies, which we pulled out for the storm. Those things need to be down there because you don't need them until you need them. And here's where the excess luggage goes, and how much excess luggage do I really need? And this is the place where what we use that storage place for is all the things that we don't want to make a decision about yet, and so we just shove them all down there. But what we really should use that space for is the things that you actually want to be able to pull out and use again when their appropriate time comes. And otherwise, you don't use it as the delayed decision parking zone. You use it as the infrequent use supply zone, right? So this is where if you have a bunch of camping gear and you like to go camping, it goes. But one of the people came on the channel and said she's a frequent camper, she goes all the time, but she had a huge amount of camping gear and she was only using a quarter of it regularly, and the rest of the stuff was just stuff that was just in there and she wasn't using it all. And so she managed to go through and pull out the gear that she uses all the time, and then she let everything else go. So she's storing the camping gear in the house, in the garage when she's not camping, but she's not storing a bunch of excess camping gear that nobody's paying any attention to. So the difference there was that she reduced it down to the active population of stuff that she likes to use. And so that's the goal that you're trying to aim for in the basement. We want that space because we want to stash certain things that we're going to not use all the time. We want to be able to go get and pull them back. But in the meantime, you want to be able to park them out of your daily living area. But you don't want that to be the junkyard where you dump everything that you don't want to think about anymore. And so going through the basement and pulling those things out and thinking about them finally and making decisions about can they go? Do they have to stay? Can we move them along? And so that's what you're aiming to do in the basement. And it might help if you find that the basement makes you crazy. If you go down to the basement and use the relocation technique where you go pull a box out of the basement that you know that you are probably going to sort, get rid of, donate a lot of it, and bring it upstairs and work on a clear space upstairs. Don't actually work in the basement.
Where you're not distracted by the rest of it.
You're not distracted by the rest of it, exactly. And then you can select the things that are going to go to donation, and if you end up finding a few things that need to go back down the basement, fine, you can take them back and put them away where you want them to live. But it might be a way to take the basement in smaller bites and not be overwhelmed by an annoying basement. But I'm sure that the basement is the room of things that you didn't want to deal with before. And so it's a whole bunch of delayed decision down there waiting to be addressed. So you're just going to have to address it one little box at a time, right?
Charity, who's watching on Facebook, said, is this a delayed decision has become a bit of a mantra at our house while we downsize, which is great. Recognizing that that's what you're doing it's definitely that's definitely an important step.
Right. And knowing that in some moment in your previous life, you've gone, I'll deal with that later. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to go from, do I want this and what am I going to do with it? You don't want to ask yourself all the questions and get all the answers. So you've shoved it somewhere, and good for you that you're realizing that and using that as am I putting off a decision-making process here? And did we really just save this because we just wanted it out of the way and we didn't want to think about it right then? Good for you.
And it's acceptable to defer some decisions as long as you're recognizing that's what you're doing, and maybe put it on a list at that point. Mm-hmm. If that helps you, give yourself permission to delay the decision, but put it on a list.
Yeah, be conscious about it.
If recognizing it's a delayed decision and setting it aside gives you the power to go on with things that you can move through more quickly, that's great.
Right. And that's the version of, peeling the onion, right? Like some of the delayed decisions will be easy to pull back out and make decisions about, and some of them are going to require more time. But, you don't have to do them all in one sitting. And if you still find one is difficult, go pick another piece and keep rolling forward. Eventually you'll feel like you have the wherewithal to go back to the one that's stumping you really hard.
So we have lots of comments.
Okay.
So let me start with Diane said, "Can you explain the jigsaw? I missed it."
Oh,
And
okay.
I don't want to go through it in great detail again, but the gist of it was 2 episodes ago in our February 9th webcast, we talked about imagining the problem space. Like if you have a room and it's just loaded with things that need work, think about the metaphor is, think about how you do a jigsaw puzzle, and you sit down and you start by finding the corners and the edges. Then next, maybe you find all the pieces that are nothing but sky, or all the pieces that are nothing but ocean, or this particular brightly colored house on the the beautiful seascape, or
And so it's a jigsaw version of making categories.
yeah. And so the examples were all the CVS receipts. That's one thing that's really easy to spot, like the corners or the sides of a jigsaw puzzle, or the big 9 by 12 envelopes and so forth.
Yeah. It was just a way to relate the concept of how you piece out and work on a puzzle to how you might piece out and work on paper, or, any kind of an organizing pile, basically.
Well, and the key point by picking one thing that's relatively easy to identify, like the corners and edges of a jigsaw puzzle, you reduce the volume of the more difficult stuff. You pull out the easy stuff, and the more challenging stuff, the thing that's going to involve tougher choices and decisions, is a smaller volume.
Exactly.
Lots of people have chimed in about plastic bags and pointed out some grocery stores have bins to recycle them, and that's a great way to get rid of them. Several people have said city recycling, municipal recycling, doesn't want them and will even throw away the stuff if you put other kinds of recycling inside grocery store plastic bags.
Any kind of plastic bag.
They're going to end up throwing it all in the trash rather than having to dump them and
to open the bag to get
open them. Yeah. We've been instructed to put everything inside 13-gallon plastic bags meant for recycling. These are transparent and tinted blue. And so they can see exactly what's inside, and it's one big bag that contains all of our not sorted recycling.
Right. That's what you guys do in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's how it's managed here. The main point there, I guess, is make sure you understand what your city recycling is willing
what they're
to
doing
take,
with plastic bags.
and that you're complying as best you can. Someone mentioned using plastic bags for cleaning up dog waste or cat waste. The only problem with that is they really break down very quickly, and so they often have little holes at the seams.
Yeah.
And so you might want to use 2.
Right. And I will say that lots of people that I know that are pet owners save the plastic bags because that's what they're using them for. But the animals do not provide enough contents for the volume of plastic bags coming in the house. So, you end up with an ever expanding pile because your pets you don't use them as fast as you add to them. And so you need to watch out for the ever growing and blossoming collection of plastic bags that you think you're repurposing, but then you're not using them nearly as fast as you're adding to them.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that.
Yes.
You don't end up with your fire hazard collection of plastic bags somewhere.
Tammy asked, why do I treat plastic bags like money?
Yeah, right? Like, it's the sense of waste, right?
Yeah.
Nobody likes to feel like they're wasting.
Well, and a couple of people pointed out that some plastic bags are made with cornstarch as an ingredient to make them biodegrade more readily.
Yes.
And then they're also just a very, very cheap grade of plastic that breaks down pretty quickly on its own and turns to plastic dust that's adding to the mess in your home. So another good reason to keep only what you can really if you're going to
what you
repurpose
can
them,
really
keep only
use.
what you
Yeah.
can really use for the near term. Someone pointed out that we're having to use plastic bags in a lot of places
because of the
because grocery
pandemic.
stores don't want to handle your reusable bags. And Rowan had the great suggestion, which is ask them to just put the groceries loose back in your cart and then push it out to the car and put it back in your reusable grocery bags.
Oh, there you
To
go. So you
convey
don't
it,
take your bags in the store,
you don't have to take
but
your
you don't
bags
have
in
to
the
take their
store.
plastic bags. Yeah, that works.
Which is terrific, because I'd prefer not to take home any more plastic bags at all.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I have 3 cats, so I have a pretty steady, contents for the plastic bags, but we're getting so many more plastic bags for shopping right now. So I'm struggling to, make sure that we get rid of it. We don't keep more than I need, because it's a everyday churn at our house.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot with a tough question
Oh,
from Gayle, who's with us in Zoom. When do you know you need outside help?
that's a really good question, actually. I would say that you need outside help when you feel like you either cannot get started no matter what you try, or you feel so overwhelmed when you look at it that you can't stay focused for very long, or you have been trying and you find yourself circling the house over and over again. Things keep moving around in circles, but nothing as much is going out the door, or you've been logging a lot of hours and you don't feel like you're digging out any space, like you're not making any headway. Now, like we said earlier, we're not aiming for you got the whole house done in a week, but if you feel like you constantly make effort and don't feel like you get result, as like you're using you're spending your time, but you're not getting any kind of measurable or visible result that you are happy with, then I would say it's a good time to ask for help. Mainly because if you are having, it isn't that you're incapable, but you may be having trouble staying on target, staying focused, picking good priorities, moving the project forward in a way that, in a speed that works. And so if you have an outside help, then that person can, this is what I do when I work in people's houses. I'm helping them set priorities. I'm holding the goals in my head, and I'm, setting the list of tasks, what we're going to do next, moving towards that target, and trying to help you get past the things that hang you up. Like some people get started and they always hit things that are difficult or emotional or stressful, and they stop it when faced with the emotion of it. And part of what I'm there to do is, yes, I recognize this is stressful, and can I ask you questions and help you get past this blockage? And so if you have the disposable income to pay somebody to come and help you, I would do it when you feel like, if you feel like you're climbing the hill and sliding back down it all the time, and you never feel like you make any headway at all, even a little bit, or you find it so emotionally debilitating or distressing or triggering that you're not comfortable getting anything done because of all of the emotion that comes up, all of those things can be supported and helped with somebody who is a professional. Help from your friends or family is a different level of help than paying someone to come and support you. And so your friends and family may or may not be more successful at it, or be more triggering, or just making your emotional response worse instead of better. So you have to be careful if you pull in free help. But I would certainly consider, if you can, even paying for a little bit of help, just to sort of give you an idea of, here, let's do this together and let's try to roll for this goal, and here's how I would approach it. And just so that you can have some experience of what it's like to do it without interruption, or without delay, or without distress, or without derailment. And even if you can only have somebody come once a month for a few hours, that's at least 3 hours of supported work that you can get done. and then you can be working at your regular pace alone, and then somebody comes to help you and you get 3 more targeted hours done. And so it just it lets you make some little, it's like walking and sprinting, alternating walking and sprinting. You can sprint a little bit and then you can walk for a while, and then you can sprint a little bit and you can walk for a while. It'll help you feel like you're making some headway.
That seems like a good time to interject a commercial and say and remind people that if you're in the Houston area, you can meet with Gayle in person.
I can come to your house.
And we'll take all the appropriate precautions to make it COVID safe.
Oh, but I'm scheduled for a vaccination shot on Wednesday.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations.
I'm almost, I'm close to being vaccinated. I'm so excited.
And from anywhere in the world, just about, if you can make your schedules overlap, you can work with Gayle virtually. Hold up that sign there, Gayle.
Oh, signs. You want me to come up with a sign now?
Visit cfhou.com/virtual to find out how that works. You've been doing a lot of that.
I have been doing a lot of it, and actually, it's super fun for me, and I hope that the people that talk about it have, that use it, find it useful. I think sometimes you just need somebody to look at your stuff and go, well, this is how I would tackle it. And you can follow somebody else's, and I can give you an idea of how I would go through your space, or what things I think need to be done, and give you sort of a task list and a project list,
a roadmap,
and then you can go and do them, right? Then you can go and execute. And so it's a way to get somebody sort of look over your shoulder. We can do it in Zoom. Then you have the camera and you can walk around and show me, here's your garage. Yes, Lise says it's another set of eyes. Exactly. And Lise was our contest winner for the homework assignment to name it Tittle. And so we met last week on Thursday after I had electricity back. We met last week and wandered around her garage. And so it was so much fun. We had a great time. And it's a great way to do with it, and let somebody look at your stuff, and then you still get to be the labor, but I can help you set out a project task list. And sometimes that's enough to let people self-work, self-guide.
I would like to take credit for holding the gun to your head to get you to start doing virtual organizing, because you resisted for a little bit there at the start.
I did.
And so I'm delighted. It delights me to hear that you have fun.
I do, because the fact that there's a camera involved means that I can walk around, you can walk around and I can ask questions about exactly what I'm seeing in the camera view, and give you great suggestions and say, yeah, you don't need that wine cooler, get it out of there. Like, I can have those conversations. And mostly what happens is when you're showing it to me, then I start to see all the places where you get stuck, because as you're talking to me about it, then you're like, I don't know what to do about this. Well, let's talk about that. Well, how could you solve that problem? Oh, that's a good idea. Okay. And so it's a way for me to see all the places where you get overwhelmed and hung up too. And that means that, hold up the sign, Clutter Fairy Houston, cfhou.com/virtual. There you go. Anyway, it's a great way for me to see it and to talk you through your sticking points, and to give you a project list and let you go. And, I'm always happy for you to come back and show it to me again and make more headway. And so it'd be fun to do it.
Here's a great comment from Jane.
Jane.
Since getting focused on decluttering, I've become much more mindful of what I bring in. I'm much more able to say no thank you, and letting folks know I'm decluttering when I'm offered things. Anything I bring in is inventory to be managed.
Right. And a pile of future decluttering, right? So it's good that you've changed your awareness, right? And you have to know that people are offering it to you because they're decluttering their house and they're trying to give you their clutter. So you don't have to take it. You can go, oh, I'm decluttering too. Thank you so much, but I'm not going to be the person that gets your clutter out of your face. No, you can go give it to someone else. Thank you so much.
And Kathy asked, how do I watch previous meetings that are recorded? And so please hold up the YouTube sign. We have now about 150 videos on YouTube. If you go to cfhou.com/YouTube, that will direct you to the Clutter Fairy YouTube channel.
Video library. You can watch all of them.
Yeah. And they're growing
hours and
every
hours
week.
and hours, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So these are all last year's and all the previous ones where we did monthly meetings, and we started putting recordings up in 2013.
Yes.
I think. And
something
so
like that. That's when we started streaming. Yeah.
Let me just say the early video quality, not so great. But we've improved over time.
A little bit.
From experience, we've gotten better. So we still get comments about the earlier videos. The sound is terrible. I can't. Yeah, we know. I'm sorry. We know.
But you know what?
They get better.
I was going to say, and that's a good point that's another thing to mention. It's a big enough library that we've sort of lost track of it. So if you find something on our YouTube channel that seems particularly bad, drop us a note. Do we have a sign for email?
No, but you can go to the website.
Yeah, if you go to clutterfairyhouston.com, you can use our contact form to send us a note and say, this video is terrible and you should take it down. And what we've been doing gradually over the last couple of years is when we identify one where the sound was terrible or the video quality was really awful, we revisit those topics and update
Yeah, we record a fresh one.
and
Yeah,
redo it and take the old ones off YouTube so that you don't have to watch things that are painful. And
that are painful when we were trying to live stream them and in Google, what was it? Google Chat?
Google Hangouts.
Google Hangouts. Yeah. The early ones were in Google Hangouts, and they relied on the live internet, and it wasn't a good experiment. It didn't work well.
And then Kathy also asked for the Facebook link, and so this is a good time to hold up that sign. You can find us at cfhou.com/Facebook.
So you get the theme, right? cfhou.com, clutterfairyhouston.com / all of the
whatever
things
it is
you want.
You're looking
Facebook,
for.
YouTube, yada, yada, yada. So Facebook, YouTube, virtual, subscribe, and meetup.
Yeah. So let us get to the weekly tittle.
Oh, it's homework time. Okay. So it's almost the end of February, so it's a good time to think about preparing your taxes. I hear the groans out there, and I totally hear you. Like, who wants to think about taxes right now? But now is a better time to start than April 12th. So let's do a little work on taxes this week, and I'll break it up depending on where you are in the process. So if you have done absolutely nothing about taxes yet, then your version of the homework is to sift through all of the standing paperwork and look for things that are related to your taxes. So, excuse me, you can create a catch-all place to gather all the documents. So a file folder or a document box or a pleated expandable folder, the one that has all the pleats in it to do like this. Sift through your stacks of paper everywhere and pull out any envelopes that say things like important tax document or anything that you think is tax support for the year. Don't worry about sorting anything, just gather it. So create your parking space, whatever folder or box you're going to put it in, and then go through all of your stacks of paper and pull out things that you think might be related to taxes and just put them in your receptacle. And don't worry about the paper piles that you're leaving, that you're sorting through. You just want to be on the hunt for important stuff, not trying to deal with the paper. So this is how we're going to narrow down your focus. You're just sifting through paper looking for tax stuff, okay? If you are somebody who has already gathered your tax documents, then your next step of the homework is to sort through them and start preparing them to be used. So whether you're going to do your own return or whether you're going to pay a professional, you have to gather up, here's my income sources, here's my expenses, here's my mileage, whatever. You're going to go through and create those lists, summaries, adding up categories that you need to give to the tax professional or that you're going to use. So that involves sorting everything in your bucket. And then I would also go and recheck all of your stacks of paper that are sitting around and make sure that you didn't miss any 1099 stuff or miss any other tax support that's sort of hidden in stacks of paper. So just do a quick sweep to wrap up. So if you've done nothing or if you've got your documents together, that's the two versions. And the last version is if you've generally got it together and you've sorted it all, then I would just start doing the calculations and doing the summaries, adding up stuff that you have to add up. The big one for me is a mileage report. In order to deduct mileage as a business, then I have to create a big spreadsheet that has a whole bunch of specific data on it, so that I'm just basically not making up mileage. I need to be able to prove where I'm going to, what the address was, what the purpose of the visit was, what the mileage, what the start and the end, blah, blah, blah. So I have to create this whole spreadsheet with all this data to prove that my business miles are eligible to be deducted. And so that big spreadsheet is a huge amount of labor, but it is totally worth it because the deduction is so good. So that's an example of doing tax calculations that need to get done for you to do the work. So if you've gathered all your documents already and you're ready to go, then I would start doing a little calculation work and see if you can not have a very stressful week of April 15th, but instead, go sailing into it all ready to go. So there's your homework. Give it a shot and report back to us next week and see how it goes.
Okay, and what about if we have people who do not have an April tax deadline, who, people in other countries who might be on a different schedule? What have you got for them this week?
Well, I think that it's the same. Whatever your deadline is, most everybody is reporting on a calendar year filing of some kind, and so whether it is the U.S. April 15th deadline or not, now's the 2020 calendar year is done. Now's the time to go find all the paperwork and get it together for your filings. And so that part of the process, regardless of your deadline, these steps are still necessary. So you still have to figure out what works in your environment, what's going to get deducted, what income you have to report, what support is for that. And so gathering all that stuff together, storing it, labeling it for 2020, and starting creating your spreadsheets of what you have to report. Just do it on the timeline that works for you.
Okay.
And then I see somebody has their hand up.
That is Anita.
Hi, Anita.
Hi. I got to tell you, I just love this show so much that I've now set up my calendar so that the time is blocked out and nobody can reach me, even my grandson who tried to call me in the middle of this.
Yay!
So, yeah. Sometimes I feel vindicated for saving some of the stuff I saved. I don't know if anyone remembers these. This is called a tickler file.
I remember tickler files.
Alphabetic. Do you know that I saved one for my days in offices? And when I came time to sort out my tax stuff, I had a friend helping me sort, and I put them in here alphabetically, and then I typed up a list with all the donations for my accountant where I'm going tomorrow. But then I realized I just keep this on top of my desk on the very top. And every time I do a donation or something, I just flip it right into the right letter alphabetically for next year. And that's something that, because there's all kinds of little stuff you can deduct. I was once one of the most unsuccessful tax preparers in an office. I lost money on the season. I was that bad. But I knew how to fill in the forms. I just couldn't do math after 11 in the morning. So, this is just really, this is going to save me a lot of time because I do keep track of everything I give away.
Right. And so
that you have more to give away if you pay attention to what you gave away.
Right. And if you go and have to file one piece of paper at a time, and you do that 3 times a month, and you go and stick one piece of paper in your little tickler file, that's awesome. Like that's a 2-minute job, right?
Yeah.
So it's not painful, it's easy. And that's what you're aiming for. And that is a perfect example of you're not behind on your taxes. You're not trying to catch up. This is a way to create a maintenance system to allow you to capture it throughout the year, right?
Yeah, because I used to just have a tax for the year file. And, one was for stock stuff and bank stuff and 1099s. But then there was this other one with donations in it. And it was huge.
Right. And now you can sort it.
That's now it's pre-sorted. So that worked out very well. And my friend who I had a friend who used to clean for me until she hurt her back. But she was really good at organizing stuff. And so I had her come in and file. She said, I love to file. God bless you.
Right? God bless you is right.
So she did my filing, and now we've graduated from doing. We might do 15 minutes of filing on a weekly basis because I realize I'm never going to file anything. I'm just not going to do it. So she
Right.
files. I only file the stuff that goes into the drawer right next to me at the desk. And I'm all set for taxes for next year. And I'm even catching people who are overcharging me now because I have time to look at my bank account. Yay! Yeah.
That is awesome. That is great.
When I couldn't get to you last week, I went back and I looked at the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And I looked at the What is Clutter one. And I looked at a few of them. And then I just sat down and I meditated for a while. And I decided I might as well accept who I am. I'm glad I have a friend to help me organize. And I simply have to get enough done so that when I lose my marbles or kick the bucket, I'm not that. And that's one of my biggest motivators, not leaving this child to deal with. So,
yeah. I'm so glad. Thank you. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. So I'm glad that it works. And congratulations on changing your mind about this is what my goal is. And this is where my weakness and how I'm adapting to my weakness, which is I have somebody come. I don't have to learn to do all of this myself. I can ask for help and have somebody come and help. And that's awesome. So you're doing the part that you can do, and you've recruited support to help you with the part that you can't do. And awesome. That's a great maintenance adaptation way to tackle your paperwork. So all hail Anita and change of mind. We love that kind of stuff. That's great. Seeing it differently is the entire point of this. You are not incapable of doing this. You really can do it. I promise. And nobody has to be perfect at it. You just have to, like we said earlier, you just have to be able to make some headway. I see Rowan's hand up too.
I'm going to jump in and say there are a couple of people with hands up, and we will have to we'll save them for after we stop the.
Oh, okay,
Facebook
okay,
stream.
Yeah, we'll come back to them after. Okay, gotcha.
Let's do our announcements because we're running out of time fast.
Okay,
and then we'll chat with everyone who's in the Zoom meeting. And one of our announcements is if you are watching us on YouTube, we would love for you to join us live. And one of the benefits of joining us live is that you can stick around afterwards for the really unscripted, unedited, uncensored version.
Isolated version.
Yes. Gayle with all the colorful language that we edit out of the videos. And so to get notifications, please join the meetup group at cfhou.com/meetup, and you'll get notifications of our upcoming meetings. You can also follow us on Facebook. If you would hold that one up, Gayle. That's cfhou.com/Facebook. We love to hear from you, so please keep the questions and comments and topic suggestions coming on YouTube, in Facebook, or wherever you find us. And you can always reach us through our website at clutterfairyhouston.com.
All right, you guys, it was lovely to see you. We survived the snowpocalypse in Texas. We're back on the air, and we'll be back next week. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.